Hello.
Hi, Angela. It's Eric with Locales Only.
Hey, Eric.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm going to be pulling up in a white Mercedes. I'll see you in just a second.
Look forward to it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, welcome to Locales Only. I'm Eric Hale. And if you don't know me, I'm the guy that founded Locale Magazine 14 years ago in my garage. It's been my job for all those years to tell you the coolest places to eat in all of Southern California, fun things to do so you have date nights that aren't boring, and we've talked to some really interesting people. Now we have a podcast, and we're lucky enough to call this Mercedes-Benz EQE all-electric sedan, courtesy of Fletcher Jones Motorcars in Newport Beach, our mobile podcast studio. So sit back, buckle up, and enjoy the conversation. Welcome to Locales Only. Today on Locales Only, we're in Anaheim, and more specifically, right outside the gates of Disneyland. We're going to be picking up sisters Angela and Mariam at their restaurant, Calaca Mama's. It is right outside the main pedestrian gate of Disneyland. We're going to be talking to them about what it was like being the daughters of really hard immigrant workers that opened up IHOP restaurants and employed them to teach them their trade. And also what it's like being women in a mostly dominated male trade. So sit back, buckle up, and enjoy this episode of Locales Only. That was easy.
It wasn't too bad.
Hi, how are you guys?
Hi, well, how are you?
Good.
Hi, I'm Angela.
Hi, Angela.
Hi,
You're
Mariam.
Mariam?
Yep.
Nice to meet you
Nice
guys.
to meet you. Okay.
All right. Let's get to know each other a little bit, I guess. So I've read about you, but I think the thing that stuck with me was you come from a family of restaurateurs, right? So
We do.
this you owning a restaurant now, which I'm sure we'll get into, isn't probably a straight line, right? From where you were to where you are now is usually not a straight line.
It's
No.
actually, for us, it's been pretty continuous. We grew up in the restaurant industry.
Uh-huh.
So my dad opened an IHOP when I was just a couple months old.
Yeah.
And we've been around the restaurants our entire lives. So our first jobs, everything, we've always worked them. So we've always kept going with them. We went to school, we did all the things, but
So everything was the intention of being in the restaurant business.
Well,
now?
I mean,
That-
our
that's my
parents-
question because
no,
it
what's the
seems like-
intention?
at least from hearing of your background stories, you were going into different fields and doing different things.
We
So
were
when
trying.
I say straight line, I
we
mean
tried.
it started in the restaurant
Yeah.
business with your parents, and then it looks like you took some other courses and then ended back there. That's why I got the
we
jagged
didn't,
line.
Yeah, we didn't leave the restaurants. We still worked in the restaurants. I was the GM. I then had a kid and I stepped away in the full GM capacity, but I stayed in the business. At that
Okay.
point is when I continued going to school, and then that didn't last very long and we came back. Our parents didn't want us to go into the restaurant industry.
Really?
It's a hard
Oh,
industry. It's physically intense.
Yeah.
It's challenging. It's a lot of ups and downs, and it wasn't something that they wanted for us. They wanted something. Everybody's parents just want something bigger or better
Mhm.
for their child,
right.
and that's what our parents envisioned for us. At the same time, they were grooming us. Absolutely. We talked about labor. We talked about operations. When we went out to dinner, it was very much analyzing what everybody's doing around
if
and
they're
how
doing
we
it right at that restaurant, what they're
absolutely.
doing wrong.
Or if you wanted something, drawing up a business plan
Really?
to
Oh,
show
yeah.
why you wanted this thing or why you should be allowed to go to this, whatever it was that we wanted to go to.
Right. There was always negotiating and having to prove your case.
Now, I read something that they were Did they immigrate here? They
Yeah,
were immigrants?
Angela and I are first generation Americans.
First generation, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Mhm.
And I read that it was Palestinian or Palestine and
Correct.
also
Spanish.
Spanish or
Yeah.
Spain, right?
Yeah.
What a great combination.
Thanks, we think so.
So who was from Spain and who was from Palestine?
Our father was Palestinian,
Okay.
and he grew up in Lebanon.
Wow.
And my dad left Lebanon when he was 18 years old onto a boat and went to Spain and met our mom at the University of Madrid.
Oh, wow. How romantic. And then they both decided to come here.
Yeah, they got married, and actually the day after they got married, they took a plane to Chicago because our dad's best friend, childhood friend, would first move there to Chicago. So they had somebody that they knew. So
Just
they moved
get
to
married,
Chicago.
let's move. That's it.
They had been together a few years, but yeah, 2 years I think at that point. But yeah, and our dad was very ambitious. Our mom wouldn't have left Spain really, because her family business. Yeah, we love Spain. And so,
but she loved him.
Yeah, she loved him. That was their person, and he wanted to be more and do more.
Yeah.
And as a refugee child, he believed in the land of milk and honey, and so that's where
American
he wanted
dream,
to go.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely, he is the story of the American dream that there is. And
I love those stories. I love these guys. Because you see people that are born here that can't see the opportunity because it's all around you, but they're like, oh, one day I'd like to open a business. And then you see a guy move here and he always has like $5 in his pocket and he's 19 and he's like, you can open a business here? I'm opening a business. And they figured out how to make it work. Now you said your dad wanted you to be, or even your mom wanted you guys to be more than them. But do you ever find that because of all that hard work and dedication, it's hard to even live up to being what your parents did? Like, oh, we want more for it, but it's like, man, if I ever had your work ethic and your drive and your desire,
I wish,
with the opportunities I have now, starting off with a good base, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? And that's where we're talking about today is.
I think it gives us a lot different perspective though, because of some of the things like our father was incredibly, ridiculously successful in, but in others he had to compromise because of that success.
Right.
And I think that's something Angela and I really understood from a really young age, that in order to do that, it was a sacrifice for time for him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, a constant. And so Angela and I have very much so made an effort to make sure that our kids aren't like restaurant orphans, basically, because it happens all too often in the restaurant industry.
I bet. I mean, you can just, you're working there all the time. And I think if there's like a parable. I grew up very religious, even though I'm not very religious now, but I remember the parable where like the dad gave like he gave his sons the same thing, and like one of them went and like burnt, like threw it all away, just like partied it all away, and the other kid went and buried it like in the yard. So at the end, one kid was like, I don't have anything left, and the other kid was like, Dad, I have it all. And he's like, he was really happy with the kid that went out and like experienced the world and did stuff. So I just think it's kind of that, it's that story. I think what's nice is I guess the way I'm trying to pull that back is you see a lot of people that might have this first generation parents or immigrant parents that worked really hard and built something, and then they give it to the kids and the kids go, thanks, and they just sit there with it. So let's talk about you guys. So, or kind of the history of it, and we haven't gotten into it that much, but so your parents were restaurant owners. They owned International House of Pancakes, right?
Yeah, IHOPs.
IHOP.
Yeah, he opened the first one in 85.
Okay.
And when the original Disneyland main gate was on Catella, so he was right across the street from it.
It was a big location.
It was huge. It was amazing. That was everything. And he was still working, making furniture at night at that point to be able to afford this, because you don't really make anything when you're trying to build out a store. And he built it out of his own hands. And then 9 months later, he opened his second IHOP. And
9 months later.
Yeah, it was insane.
It wasn't a good landlord fit.
Oh, okay.
And he found another location in Anaheim, and it was right when Disneyland changed their main gate to on Harbor.
Oh, he just got the timing right.
He got the perfect timing. He was very lucky. He worked very hard, but he was very lucky, and he was very social, and he networked well, and it all worked out for him. And he acquired our second IHOP, and then a third one came a couple of years later in Irvine, across the street from John Wayne Airport. And then he was very ambitious as it continued, and he acquired the lease next door to the IHOP on Harbor, and he opened the Anaheim Pizza and Spaghetti Company.
Okay.
And it had an arcade and a jukebox. It was really cool.
I love that none of these are Palestinian foods, right?
Everything this is all just a front for him to be able to make enough money to be a musician.
Absolutely.
Oh, really?
My dad's lifelong ambition, goal, dream, it was literally just to make money to be able to do music.
Yeah.
And that's exactly
that
everything.
Sounds like every musician I've ever talked to.
Oh, yeah.
So let's take this let's take this story.
Yeah.
So now we have some context of like, you know, where your family came from and how you got to here. And, you know, I think it's nice to say you probably had a little bit of a head start because of that. So we thank your mom and dad for all that.
Oh, absolutely.
I think if, you know, I don't really want to go into this. I don't think it's necessary, but I think your mom and dad aren't with us anymore. Is that
Correct.
also true?
Yeah,
That's also true.
All right.
Unfortunately, we lost them basically 10 years apart from each other. And
So some more inspiration, and, you know, hopefully we're blessing and honoring them today by having you guys on here to talk about them. So
I like that thought.
yeah.
That's sweet. Thank you.
okay. So let's take from that. So you had this great foundation, you had this work ethic, you had this you know, entrepreneurial background, and it was bred into you from early lunches and dinners, and you kind of learned this. So you've taken this, and instead of just running the restaurants, you've decided to not only open up your own business, but also to invest in some franchises. So why don't we start with the business you've opened, and it's, I think, geographically almost right where your dad opened. It's very near Disneyland. You can throw a rock over the fence.
That's actually a really funny story how we even got to our location where Calaca sits today.
And the restaurant is, just tell everybody.
Calaca Mama's Cantina in Anaheim, California.
Right by Disneyland. It's right off Harbor, right?
Right, across the street from Disneyland on their pedestrian main gate entrance.
Okay, so we're keeping the trend alive. But
Yes.
yeah, continue.
We understand high volume tourist locations, and, you know, we love that kind of crazy amped up environment. But when her father acquired, then this IHOP, which is separate from the one that he had before, those other ones closed.
and they stood where California Adventure actually stands now.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
that's who took
Acquired
it
our land.
Who
Okay.
acquired it.
And so we moved then across the street from Disneyland.
Yeah.
And he opened that IHOP. And at the time that he acquired that lease, he acquired the lease to the spot next door.
Okay.
And he had to choose which location because he could not afford to open both.
Okay.
We still couldn't afford to do
Right.
everything.
I mean, that's a big
you know?
undertaking. Yeah.
Absolutely, 2 new restaurants, and it's all self-financed. He never took
Right.
on partners really like that,
Smart.
or anything. And he got that lease next door and the IHOP, and he went with the IHOP location because it was cheaper to remodel.
Okay.
Great. It's worked out wonderful for us. It's a great spot.
And then a friend of his ran and operated the restaurant.
He signed over the lease to his other one. He had a partner for real estate
Okay.
that was in the restaurant space before, and he said he had wanted it for himself, that he wanted to get into the restaurant space again, and so he signed the lease over to him. And then you flash forward to 2016. Was it 2016, Mary?
2016, I was looking for an office building to purchase and came across a listing that said that all it showed was a picture of the main entrance to Disneyland with
That's a great ad.
caption that said restaurant space for sale. And we've stared at that view our entire lives out
Very
of
familiar with
the
that.
IHOP window. So we called right away, and it was actually my dad's old friend.
So it's easy to negotiate that lease.
He was retiring.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very
Still
savvy.
Tough. Yeah, still tough. Wasn't that easy.
He is an extremely keen businessman. Very smart man.
Very kind man, very generous, but very smart
Yeah.
and keen in his business, especially when it comes to real estate. That was his serious genius. So the lease actually went from our father to them,
Then back to
us.
Okay.
So we ran it and bought it as a Captain Kids buffet,
Right.
and ran
which
it
was
as
a pirate themed
So at first, the restaurant that you're in now was Captain Cook's Buffet.
Captain Kids.
Captain Kids. I've
Yeah.
never heard of it.
So if you've
Yeah.
seen the restaurant now, you should definitely Google this
Yes.
because the transformation alone is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was full on pirate themed buffet.
Yeah.
I mean, with like hanging chains and like
At
the
one
whole
point,
9 yards.
Treasure Island in Las Vegas did a big remodel in the 90s or the early
Did they
2000s.
take all their stuff?
I think they
Yes,
did.
there was an auction, and you could buy them for pennies. And
Yeah.
so restaurants, you make pennies on the dollar. We all know you chase it. And
Right.
so to redecorate and remodel, he went out to Vegas, and so a bunch of it were like real swords with like screws into the wall.
Yeah.
fake parrots hanging.
So this is a big remodel. So where did you guys do with all that stuff?
And we have
Where did
it.
Molly go?
So we have some of it.
We have quite a bit of it. Still, the nicer pieces that we want to keep for memory and stuff.
So we took it over, and we really had no idea what we were going to do with it. We were like,
oh, so
what?
there was no concept, right?
There was no concept yet. We were like,
just had to move so quickly.
Because
But I
Angela
guess
and I-
continuing the theme, right? Because
we've always been in
you're not
franchises.
yeah. Now did you consider making it a Spanish or Palestinian style restaurant because of your heritage?
Yes.
Now that those things might be more,
We thought about it.
We thought about it.
But they're kind of really like niche-y, and
especially for like tourists coming from flyover
Correct.
states.
Right.
And-
That's not really a cuisine that's easily accessible to
Right.
most
and
people.
execution is
Right,
not the
right,
easiest
right.
on some of those dishes,
Right.
or teaching others how to be able to
so
execute.
you're looking, I mean, it's a business mindset first, which is probably what your dad
So we're
taught
like-
you is what do you make for the masses that is going to connect with the thousands and thousands of people coming out of that
100%.
gate every
Well,
day.
At first, Angela and I, since we're so like franchise mentality, Angela and I always thought when we were acquiring the lease, we'll just stick a franchise in there.
Right.
Not a big
Easy,
deal.
yeah.
Well,
Easy.
yeah, not so easy when literally it's Disneyland. So
Well, every
first,
franchise is already taken
It's
within
already
10
taken.
square blocks. Yeah.
Or
So-
they own the rights already,
Right.
right? Although they haven't developed.
Right. So it's almost impossible to do a franchise.
100%.
Yeah.
Or people are willing to buy our lease, take it over, but that's not what we wanted. We wanted to
Right.
be operators. We
Right.
wanted our hand in it because that's what we enjoy, not just a
So-
paycheck.
So now you have a big responsibility, I would say, because I think the population of Anaheim is well over 50% Hispanic,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Mexican, there's hundreds, I think over 500 or 600 Mexican food restaurants
Oh, yeah. A
in
lot.
Anaheim.
Mhm.
But if a lot of your customers, I'm guessing, are coming as visitors to Disney, this might be their taste of Mexican food.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Talk about pressure.
what do you do to make sure that that's right? How do you make sure that that's right? I mean, how do you get the recipes right? How do you get the menu items right? So when they go home to Ohio, they said they had a California taco and we got it right.
Well, see, the beautiful thing though about Mexican cuisine and
Yeah.
Mexican culture is there is so many different variations
Oh,
and
correct.
takes on it
Absolutely.
that it is such a beautiful thing to be able to incorporate a bunch of different flavors from a bunch of all over
Yeah.
Mexico. And
Oh yeah. Anywhere you go, I've traveled all over Mexico, at least 20 trips, I think, by now. Say 15 to 20. But the cuisine, people always say that's not authentic Mexican food. And I'm not an expert in the subject, but I have eaten Mexican food all over Mexico.
Mhm.
And wherever you go, it's completely different.
Yeah.
because they're such a beautiful culture, they take inspiration from their land
Right.
also. So all the flavors are dependent on what grows specifically there. That's why a tequila from Jalisco is not the same.
15
It's-
years ago, we did a series when I first started my magazine called Versus.
Okay.
And I thought, I was like, if I'm going to report on these things, I have to try them. So we would go do, we tried 12 different hamburgers. And then, on the next issue, we tried 12 ramens. And we tried 12, everything we tried had to be in groups of 12. So it was 6 a day for 2 days in a row. And I remember coming home and Googling, can you die from MSG poisoning? Because I had so much ramen in 2 days and my head was
Yeah.
my sodium levels were so high. So,
So
I
high.
get the tasting thing. Now, but what I took out of what you were saying was two things. Lessons you learned as a business owner without your parents there to maybe guide you
Yeah.
so much. And also doing that as sisters, which I've worked with my brother before. God bless you guys for being able to work together. I love my brother, but I mean, we almost choked each other on a weekly basis.
Okay.
So there's something to be for the sisters, for being women, and also for being business owners as women and how there's some of those challenges. So maybe talk to us about the challenges of not having parents to lean on, being sisters in this restaurant world, and also being women in industry. Talk to me about
Obviously,
that a little bit.
you've been in restaurants. The majority of a restaurant is primarily, most of the time, the upper management or ownership is it's men dominant.
Oh, very
you see this very much
across
so.
the board. Yeah.
In all of the corporations and CEOs. So it's extremely difficult to be a female in that space because one, you're usually not really listened to as much as your male counterpart would be. But two, it's also challenging because Angela and I aren't the oldest. So we can't go into the space and be like, look, I know what I'm talking about. I have 50 years experience because we don't have the 50 years experience. I can tell you why we think what we think, because probably based on our age and our previous thoughts, but we can't do that. So a lot of the men in that culture won't listen to us simply based on that. So that's really kind of challenging on its own. But obviously Angela and I are sisters, and our parents did a really excellent job of really drilling into us that we had nobody else. So when push comes to shove and there is nobody else, because here in the United States, it was only the four of us. So we didn't have anybody else. We didn't have aunts here, cousins. Angela and I didn't have anybody here. So when we were younger, like you fought, you had to figure this out. There was nobody else. There was nobody else to play with.
Oh, she made it even worse. If you fought, she wanted, like, she would make it so bad.
So let's kind of put a bow on this, because we're getting right towards the end of our conversation here. What I would love to know is that information there. It feels like you've learned so many lessons. Lessons have been passed down from your mom and your dad, immigrants. Lessons from being women business owners. So let's pretend that you are sitting down in front of a group of 100 impressionable first generation immigrant women that want to get into business and don't know what to do to get started. What's the advice that you guys would both give to them specifically to go out and start chasing their dreams?
I would say don't stay quiet. Don't stay quiet. If you know and you feel what you're saying, don't stay quiet.
Okay.
Absolutely. Don't stay quiet. That's a great one, actually. I love that phrasing too. I think believing in yourself is a huge one, but it's the people relationship. Everything comes down to people. We're in the people business, and make your relationship help each other and actually become a community. I think that's a huge part of it.
Creating a culture.
So like get involved with other people doing it. Be active.
100% be active, but at the end of the day, don't take advice from other people. Absolutely. But you don't have to go the same route as everybody else goes.
Right.
Many people get to the same destination by taking different routes, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to speak up, and it's okay to battle that and know that they just don't get you right now, and that's okay.
Those sounds like those words might have come out of your dad's mouth at some point. That I could just feel like that immigrant mentality right there of coming over here and saying, don't listen to everybody else, do something different, go your own way.
That would be our mom, actually.
Was that your mom? Okay, good.
That was more
it was somebody's words echoing out of you, I could tell. Those had been implanted.
Yeah.
Correct, but a lot of times you're made to feel small, right? You don't, especially as a woman, don't laugh too loud in a room. Don't be too loud. And it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay to laugh
What's that
loud.
thing? Quiet women hardly make history. So well-behaved women hardly make history. It's something like that.
It's something like that. I know what you're saying,
and don't listen to their standards of what well-behaved is.
Yeah,
go be yourself. As long as you're a good person and you're not hurting anybody, get it done,
And lead with integrity. I would say that's a really huge thing, especially in the business world.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be successful, there's plenty of people who are successful being horrible human beings.
Oh, sure.
But I don't think that's the trajectory for most people. I think it comes around, what goes around comes around. So you should lead with integrity always, because at the end of the day, you can hold that up and know that you did the right thing, whether you failed at the end of the day or you didn't.
That was always the test, right? Can you sleep with yourself at night? When you put your head down on your pillow, you only have yourself to answer to. Can you just fall asleep? Are you good with what has gone on to the day? Are you good with the reputation that you've made for yourself and the name that's out there? And so integrity is huge.
I love that.
And definitely don't put profit over people.
Never.
Put people over profit, because those are the same people that will help you to get to the profit. So without other people, you really are nothing in the business world. So there's a role for everybody. And I think it's important to be able to realize people's strengths that add to yours, not really diminish.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so now the last thing I want to go over with you people, we want them to go check out Calaca Mamas, right? This is your venture. We really wanted to get them over here. They want to try it out. So whether you're coming to visit Disneyland or you live in the Anaheim area, the Orange County area, when they get there, what do they need to try? What food item? Give me a food item and a drink item that they definitely need to try when they come in.
Okay, so I'll tell you my two favorites.
Okay.
One is a chile relleno.
Okay.
It is a stuffed pepper, and we beer batter it with our own Calaca Mama's lager in it and fry it. We stuff it with a slow roasted braised beef and cheese, so it's not just cheese, and it is absolutely delicious.
Okay.
And it is by far my favorite menu item.
Okay.
And my favorite drink is a churro on ice. It is a fig-infused reposado tequila that is absolutely delicious and very surprising. And I love that about it.
Awesome. What about you? What do they need to try when they come in?
I love the tlayuda. It's the OG Mexican pizza. The flavor is delicious. It's nice and crispy and chewy. And the churro on ice is one of my favorites. And my second, or right there battling it constantly, is the mora mora. It's a blackberry whiskey smash with a Calaca Mama's twist. And it's delicious. I was not a whiskey drinker, and this is definitely the whiskey gateway because it does not like smack you like some of those, alcohol spirits do get you.
Well, awesome. So I just want to say thank you, Angela and Mariam, for coming on to our show today. I really enjoyed having you, learning about your family and your business, and you're welcome back anytime. So thank you for being on.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome. Thank you for being on Locales Only.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
I want to thank everyone on the Straw Hut Media team, including executive producer Ryan Tillotson and our editor and producer Parker J. Hicks. And as always, a big thank you to Fletcher Jones Motor Cars in Newport Beach for providing this beautiful Mercedes-Benz EQE to be our rolling podcast studio. Join us next time on Locales Only, where you can buckle up and go for a ride in our mobile podcast studio with some of the coolest people in Southern California.